What is one alcohol you'll never drink again? My first time drinking it, we were all gonna take one shot to start off with and then make riot punch. Only one girl had it before nobody else. It hit the bottom of my throat and I was like, yep, I just drank something that probably melts tar. Now riot punch is just Everclear or any pure grain alcohol, and this is why you have to take a few shots to get the level down. Packets of Kool-Aid. Just straight up a few packets of Kool-Aid, no sugar or nothing. You can mix and match or go one flavor. Then just shake up the bottle really good and bam, you got riot punch. I highly do not recommend consuming this unless you want to wake up somewhere terribly unexplainable or jail. I woke up completely naked on top of a bush somewhere off campus. Do not remember anything after getting to the parking lot of the football game. It was on Saturday afternoon and I woke up on Monday evening. Oh Lord, moonshine, this is about 15 years ago and I was working as a legal SEC/receptionist. One of the beautiful couples I got to know super well and had a real friendship with were an old Serbian or Polish couple. I baked them muffins for Christmas one year. They gave me a 2-liter bottle of clear moonshine. Papa said he started the day with a tiny shot glass of his tonic and it was the secret to his longevity. Well, I tried it one evening, a small glass, and felt as though someone had injected me with lightning. I loved it. Hubby decided to go Christmas shopping early next day. Thought a couple of tonic drinks can't hurt. Deal with the insanity of Westfield on a Saturday morning. Yep. He had about 4. I didn't see him for about 4 hours when he wobbled his way home with the fucking strangest assortment of shopping you had ever seen in your life. He was a mess but so proud of his purchases, completely useless, random nonsense. Then had another shot. Then wanted to have sex, we didn't. Then danced a bit and then threw up for an hour and passed out. I found his hangover funny the next day. He decided he wanted to join a monastery and never, ever drink again. He had no idea where he had been or what he had done, but I very helpfully showed him all his purchases. It's a very belated apology to any retail staff that had to deal with hubby that day. You're not paid enough for this. Burnett's Pink Lemonade. Long story short, I was a sheltered child that went from a really small school to a large, public university, and I knew basically nothing about alcohol. Parents, don't shelter your children, teach them responsibility. Abstinence doesn't work. So, I experience a night that has been since known as 12 shots, 20 minutes. That's how I got 2 strikes in one night freshman year of college. I didn't even do anything crazy. It was the 2 cops, 3 EMTs, 2 RAs, and the hall director, all of whom made sure I didn't die of alcohol poisoning, that got me 2 strikes due to the amount of resources that was called in. Now almost any Burnett's, especially the pink lemonade, that brings back an enormous taste of shame-filled regret, and puke. But hey, you learn the easy way or the hard way. I'm just glad my hard way was hard for me and not hard on my friends and family. Don't underestimate alcohol and drugs. Do your research, kids. Bombs, vodka, especially in that combination. Had a period in life where this was my to-go drink. Got drunker than I've ever been a few years back in Prague for a school trip. I was 18 plus though, when the bartender offered me free and discounted Bombs with vodka shots. Around number 14 I realized I needed to stop, but I still had one in my hand and figured I'd finish it or it would be a waste. Woke up in a bunk bed next to a friend, pushed myself up, reached over them and puked. Didn't hit my friend but watched it run down the wall into her open suitcase. Room had to be emptied due to the smell. We shared it with about 10 people, teachers were called and I got put under the shower with clothes on. Had to sober up on a sofa in the lobby. Next day I felt fine. Everyone else was pissed and tired and I realized my drinking affected everyone around me. To be honest, that night was the eye-opener and I've had a few drinks at most after that night, and only at home when we have a party, and even then I stop before the point of being drunk. Drinking to the point of vomiting and bothering everyone around you isn't cool, it's not something to brag about. Though it makes for a strong story that friends often bring up and joke about, it's one of the most shameful nights in my memory. Never again. Cider. Worked in a pub and we had a staff meeting at 10 a.m., as it was kind of full on and not pleasant. The landlord said we could drink for free for the rest of the day. From 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. I drank nothing but cider. He sent me home as my shift was due to start at 6 p.m. Went home, tried to sleep, threw my guts up which looked like pure black tar, ate a little and went back to work. I was only 16 and my job was collecting glasses and emptying ashtrays. You best believe he told rest of the staff to not touch any glasses or empty ashtrays before I got in and left it all to me. On a busy summer Sunday afternoon there was so much to do and he really ran me ragged for 3 hours straight. When I finally caught up he let me go home early. I started my first day of art college the next day with alcohol poisoning. The other is tequila. My ex and I threw a dinner party and I was cooking up a Mexican banquet. Our guests brought bottles of tequila but no one was drinking as they had work the next day. As it was my day off the following day I drank 2 bottles of tequila, 6 bottles of Corona and half a bottle of wine. Woke up the next day to my ex screaming at me for looking at porn on the laptop. Didn't even know I had done it. She dragged me out of bed and had me run errands with her all day. Had to stop the car every 20 minutes or so I could puke. Not fun. In high school as a freshman back in 2006 me and my best friend went to the grocery store with my mom and we asked her to buy us a little bottle of Smirnoff Apple. We are 2 dumb-ass teenage girls who probably never had a real shot of alcohol prior to this other than maybe a Mike's Hard Lemonade. Anyways, we were happy and went to KFC afterwards and got ourselves a couple snackers, little chicken sandwiches, got home and obviously drank the whole bottle of Smirnoff and immediately felt sick. I started throwing up in a trash can right next to me and she started throwing up in a trash can I got from the living room. It was brutal and I remember the taste of KFC chicken, green apple, and vodka till this day. The positive part was my trooper of a BFF saying it's the best day of her life as she is yakking into a lil trash can. I miss her. Never ever touched any type of Smirnoff after that. That green label makes me want to throw up just looking at it. In the beer world there are a few styles that I'll avoid. Gose, lighter style of beer made to have a bit of saltiness, yeah, that just doesn't work for me. Fruit beer, with the exception of IPAs, even then so sparingly, beer brewed with fruit is just awful. Notable offenders are beers like Sam Adams Cherry Wheat, or Abita's Raspberry Wheat, yuck. Fruity notes in an IPA usually are the result of the hops being used and most often not even made with fruit. Also, anything beer labeled prickly pear, beer made with cactus. Just, why? Sours, I've tried to enjoy sour beer. Wild ales, Berliner Weisses, Flanders Red. I just can't. A standard saison/farmhouse ale is as close as I can get. But I do understand their appeal, there is a great rustic/old-timey appeal to them, wild fermented. But just not for me. Belgian beers, I actually love these styles, Abbey ale/double/triple/quads, etc., but I find that these particular styles give me horrible indigestion. I don't know if it's the higher amounts of yeast/sugar that these styles are known for, or the particular strains of yeast they use, but I can't drink these beers without having to down half a bottle of Tums afterward. SKYY vodka. Shit's fucked me up more than once. And when I say fuck, somehow riding the bus home, which I barely remember, but I remember puking in front of it. Then I just started crawling on the ground to my house while puking until some lady drove me 2 blocks to my apartment while I held the door open and puked. Then I had a hangover for about 2 days straight where I could barely move and nothing I ate or drank would stay down. No sleep was slept. You don't black out with SKYY, not for me anyway, you just kinda fade in and out of awareness, and like you're thinking about wanting to do something and suddenly you're there and you're hungry, but you can't get your limbs to do the thing when you think about it, and your eyes just won't stay open, but yet you somehow have enough muscle memory to do it anyway, and now you have the most amazing mac and cheese you've ever had. Don't drink SKYY. Imagine you're at a shitty frat party. Nothing to drink but Natty Light and some $5 handle of vodka. So you grab a natty and start chilling. Meanwhile, one dude has his girl over and brings her a drink. She doesn't do beer, so numbnuts brings her a solo cup half full of vodka. Of course she ain't drinking a cup of $5 vodka straight, so she asks him to make it into a mixed drink. He wanders into the kitchen, but there are no mixers in sight, so he starts rummaging through the cabinets. Dude finds a packet of Kool-Aid mix, decides it's good enough and dumps it in the vodka. Upon presenting this foul concoction to his boo, she takes a big ol' swig and vomits a bit in her mouth. She turns, grabs the first thing in sight, which happens to be your half-drunk Natty Light, and spits it all up in your cup. Completely unaware of this, you grab your cup and take a nice sip of cheap beer, cheap vodka, Kool-Aid powder, and stomach acid. Congratulations, you just discovered the 4 ingredients of Four Loko. At the recommendation of some friends, I grabbed 3 of 4 Four Loko. I got about 2 gulps in before I tossed the lot of them out. If I need a drink bad enough to pop one of those open again, I need to go to rehab. Bacardi. At my mum's friend's house. Her daughter was in my class in school. Mum and friends were chatting, smoking, and having a drink. In my 14-year-old brain, I decided that we would sneak some Bacardi. And by Bacardi I mean a FKN bottle. We just poured it into pint glasses with Coke and went for it. I don't remember much until I woke up the next morning face down in my bed. I got up, crawled to the door past the mirror, and stopped short at the sludge-colored apparition I'd just witnessed. I gingerly moved back into view of the mirror and gasped in horror. I had left the house in a cream-colored outfit. Suffice to say, it had been given a makeover and was no longer cream. I looked like I'd had a fight with a puddle and drowned in the attempt. Apparently we were found asleep in the garden snoring by my very unimpressed mother. I was too old for the wooden spoon at that point, but by the look of her the next morning I'd say she was contemplating it all the same. Good memories, rolling on the floor laughing. But I've never once touched Bacardi again. Jägermeister, after my incident at Graspop Metal meeting in Belgium in 2007. Story recap: Jägermeister were one of the main sponsors on the festival. Their main bar area next to the stages was a 50-meter long bar where you could get a beer and a Jaeger shot for €2.50. On the Saturday I had frequented that bar often enough to have a lot of free Jaeger merch, and I by then knew most of the bartenders by their first name. Somehow during the day I found myself wearing a kilt, for reasons unbeknownst to me. To this day I am only 20% sure I even paid for it. I dunno, not important. Fast forward to around 2000 hours-ish, when Slayer was playing. I had probably had 20 plus beers with Jaeger, but in surprisingly good form. We were standing a bit behind and to the right of the sound engineer's booth, where there were some solid wooden tables and benches. I climbed on top of a table to get a better view. Someone sitting at the table started asking me about my kilt, and if I was going commando, as one is supposed to. My answer to this was to lift the whole fucking thing up to show that I, in fact, had my carrot and onions on display. This is where things started to go south. As I was showing off my not so impressive bits, one of the crowd cameras panned by the whole situation, resulting in my cock and balls being displayed on 3 fucking enormous screens behind Dave Lombardo. Years ago picked up some strange potato vodka from Kroger, and I have to say that it made me more sick than anything I've ever consumed in my life. I thought it looked like a cool bottle and had never had that type of spirit before. That night, had somewhere between 4 to 6 shots, not enough to get absolutely plastered but enough to be feeling no pain. The day after I had what I can only describe as the worst food poisoning ever. Splitting headache, vomiting, cold chills, etc. This was unique as I had had experience with getting hammered on the weekends and drinking way more of other spirits but never felt nearly as bad as this liquid hell. Oddly enough, I had a friend stop by who was always bumming things, so I offered it to him with the explicit warning, detailing exactly what it had done to me, and he was still like, oh, well hell yeah, give it to me. So I did. Next time I saw him I asked about it and he said he was fine. Said he drank it, got drunk and was fine the next day. That friend is alive and well to this day, so I do know. The one thing I do know? I'll never drink potato vodka ever again. Smirnoff Ice Double Black. Drinking with two friends out at an underground nightclub. Government had just brought in the no smoking in clubs and no alcohol on the dance floor rule. I was mainly sitting most of the night and my friends would hand me their drinks to hold and go dance. Forgetting they gave me their drinks to hold, they would go back to the bar after dancing and order more. They would then circle back to me sitting with the drinks. I would then drink those drinks and be handed the next ones to hold. This went on all night. The lights flicked on and I was completely sober. I stood up to walk out and fell like a ton of bricks face first, had to be carried up the stairs to the exit. This followed with a night throw up and a foot on the floor when in bed. Sickest I've ever been drunk. Jägermeister. When I was about 15 I went to a so-called Maibaumfest, which is basically a tradition in Central Europe and is celebrated every May. I went there with a friend of mine. The legal drinking age is 16/18, soft alcohol, beer, wine, at 16 and the good stuff at 18. However, the waiters there were also teenagers and were pretty drunk themselves. And they always carried around these little shots of Jägermeister on their dishes. After a while, they straight up just left them lying around. So, me and a few kids of my age took it upon ourselves to get rid of it by drinking it. I drank about 10 to 15 of these shots that evening. After that, I was so drunk and my mouth was just numb. I even started drinking random drinks standing on the Resteltisch, a table where people put their drinks after they couldn't or wouldn't finish, and it all felt like water. Needless to say, the next day I was pretty hungover, and not only did I have the taste of Jägermeister in my mouth for 2 days, but when I threw up it would even intensify, making me puke even more. Since then I can't even smell Jägermeister without feeling sick, and it's been a few years ago since that happened. It was 9 years ago, I was 19. There was a bar, there were 2 gallons of Fireball whiskey and by the end of the night there was none. I worked with some guys in Georgia doing propane cooling systems in a chicken plant. There was a guy, we'll call him Jeff, and he was a short stout loudmouth and we were all from Texas. I had been downing Budweiser the entire time we were taking shots out of the dreaded FB, and the little devil on the bottle made itself known to me after I had convinced myself I'll be alright as long as I stand up the entire time. So in keeping with my caveman logic I stood at the bar, filling my empty stomach full of the concoction of beer and flavored whiskey. Jeff gets up on the karaoke stage and practically screams, "Where all the fat girls at?" And I felt uneasy and went to the bathroom. So I've thought about this a lot, and the best way I know how to describe it is I think I drank enough to break the matrix. Because I was only in the bathroom for 5 minutes before there's a bunch of knocking on the door, and I say, "Hold on a minute," as I'm puking my guts out. The guy on the other side of the door sounds familiar in saying, "Hey Feral, we're about to get kicked out, we fucked up and now that bartender knows you're underage." It was a guy I worked with, and him and that bartender could wait a damn minute. I sit down on the toilet with my pants around my ankles, just in case, can't call me irresponsible, and they knock again, except this time when I tell them to hold their damn horses, they begin to practically beat the door down. So screw it, I unlock it. Ah Jesus, he shit and puked everywhere. On Monday, I went to school because that's what we did back then, and I'm walking into the school building and who do I see but Jake McNamara, and he says to me, "Hey, were you at my party on Saturday?" And I said, "No, you know, like a liar, and he said things got really out of hand. Someone broke the pool table, someone took a shit on my dad's computer, but the worst thing, he says, the worst thing is that someone stole these old antique photos of my grandmother and my parents are freaking out about it, and I had that thought that only blackout drunks and Steve Urkel can have. Did I do that? I figured no, I wouldn't have done that, but I was never sure until, 2 years later. Relax. I'm playing video games with this kid named Alex that we also went to high school with. 2 years later, we've graduated by now, we're playing video games for a couple hours. And then Alex says to me, "Hey, come here, I want to show you something," and then he takes me into his bedroom, and then he takes me into a side room off of his bedroom. Never a good thing to have. He shows me a tiny room that is covered wall to wall in stolen antique photos from different people's parties over the years. And I said, "Why? Why do you do this?" And Alex said, "Because it's the one thing you can't replace." That's the end of that story, but how fucked up is that? Right? That's crazy. So I don't drink anymore.